Skylar Sorkin, founder and podcast host of Regardless. Welcome to the Fieldswell Podcast.
I'm so excited to be here, Lauren. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This has felt like a long time coming, and we were actually going to record last week, but then your Instagram got hacked.
Dude, it's been crazy. Yeah, my Instagram got hacked. Pro tip, make sure two-factor authentication is turned on like every single platform, including email, because they even got into my email. Anyways, it was this entire thing. Yeah,
Wow. Did you find out who it was, or do you know what you think they were looking for?
they wanted money. So they were like trying
Wow.
to extort me. So super, super scary stuff.
Okay.
But regardless,
Regardless, we carry on. Oh my gosh. We have to tell our listeners about Regardless. What inspired you to start the Regardless movement, podcast, all of the things?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me here and opening up the space for me to share a little bit more about me, regardless, and what I'm building. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the birth of Regardless started my senior year of college, where, I was like, what in the world did I learn? Like, I went to a great school, but I just didn't feel like I was learning or getting the life skills or like the answers for what I wanted to do beyond the walls of college.
Okay.
And I feel like I grew up in a very fortunate household because my mom is a marriage and family therapist and my dad is an executive team coach. And so personal development, staying curious, always trying to push outside of the box and question and challenge myself and push for growth has really been one of my main values, obviously instilled in me at a very young age. So, you know, my senior year, I was like, there must be more. And like, how do I know what that more is? And like, how do I know what that alignment looks like? So I just started booking like 7 informational interviews a week with my mentors, and then those mentor conversations were introduced to my mentors mentors, and through those conversations I was just growing at such a quick rate.
Yeah.
And not only were we talking about my career path,
Mhm.
but we were also talking about how do I break up with a boyfriend that I was no longer into, or how do I heal an eating disorder that I was struggling with all 4 years of college. And so through those conversations I started to realize, holy cow, I am learning so much more that I am through these conversations versus what I'm learning at lecture.
Yeah.
And, I grew up always performing and having a voice, whether it was through dance or acting or speaking. And
Mhm.
I knew that, you know, continuing to expand myself in arts or just to share my story was always very important to me. And then through these conversations and kind of like being in the ringer of
Mhm.
being, a 20 something about to embark on the adult life and
Yeah.
world, I was like, wow, this is like what I want to be doing. And if I was able to share these conversations with my friends, we
Mhm.
would all be learning at such a quick rate. So that's when like the light bulb moment went off, but it wasn't until my first year out of college. I was selling for like an influencer marketing boutique agency. And I was like 23 years old and had to pitch to like a 6-year-old C-suite exec at like Sony. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I was like, going onto the Zoom call. And that's literally Lauren when like the word regardless like made her appearance, because
Okay.
I was just like, regardless of the result of this meeting, I am so much more than my career. Like the
Mm.
result of this meeting does not define my worth. And so that's when like regardless became so much more than just a word for me. It became a mindset. It became a pivot for me to go from being stuck in this fixed mindset to growth. It
Yeah.
allowed me to really approach my life in such a resilient way. And I'd much rather grow than stay stagnant, regardless of what shit honestly shows up in my life, which I've experienced, honestly, a lot of that the past 4 months. And I just, through the word regardless, and like you said, this movement that I'm creating, it is the go to podcast and platform for 20 something women navigating the chaos of her career, relationships, and well being. And my mission, being a 27-year-old founder and host, is to be so authentic, real, and raw about what I'm going through in real time, share that with my audience, support them through it, bring in my mom, who is a marriage and family therapist, my best friend, to shed light on what this multi-generational perspective is, as well as bringing in the most relevant and verified voices who are influencers, C-suite execs, coaches, therapists, etc., to provide their expertise on what the frick we're going through. So
Yeah.
that is what I'm doing. That was like a long-winded answer, but hopefully it lays the land of who I am and what I'm creating.
Incredible. No, very well said and explained. Thank you. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And I really could have used that word regardless when I was in my younger 20s, because we have this idea that when we graduate college, we're going to have it all figured out because adults have it all figured out. And we'll know when graduation day comes exactly what we're supposed to do with the next chapter of our lives. And now we know that is far from the truth. And not only that, but I also feel that mindset principles are missed in the education system. My just having graduated with a master's in psychology and have done all this personal development work in my later 20s to
Wow.
reconnect and find myself, I realized, wow, no wonder individuals are stuck with a fixed mindset because they're not checking, why do I have this belief system? Likely they didn't have a marriage and family therapist and coach as their parents. So perhaps they had parents who didn't believe in them or who had a limited mindset, and they grow up believing that's reality and they never check it. And so the work that you're doing, Skylar, is so important.
Thank you so much for saying that. And spot on, Lauren. Like, first of all, I'm so grateful you're in my life. Like, the moment that I saw you on camera, I was like, okay. And you started talking. I was like, we're going to be literally best literally. No, but I agree. And like, that's why I know that I'm privileged to grow up in that environment. And I want to provide that access,
Hmm.
resources, and support to 20 something women and beyond. Because if we look at what's happening in our world, there's a mental health crisis.
Yeah,
And I'm
Chris.
not sure if you've heard of this, but it's like called the quarter life crisis. And that's our 20s. And this decade is one of the most brutal times because there's so much unknown. There's not enough support out there. Most people have mental health issues, and there's only
Yeah.
7% of therapists available
Mm.
for the population. So obviously, there's a massive access problem to
Mhm.
resources, support, and honestly, like authentic content.
Yeah.
That's what I really am doing is I really want to fill in those gaps and bring women into my life and my
Mhm.
emotional SWAT team.
Mhm. So incredible. I think what we're both trying to do and that we're fortunate to be able to do through the podcasting platform is to normalize the conversation around mental health and
Yep.
to almost like celebrate talking about it. Like this doesn't have to be like a back door, like back office thing. Like this is one of the most important things that you could be focusing and working on. And it should be celebrated to come to the realization that wow, I want to work on my mental health, my mindset, and my well-being.
I love it. I couldn't agree more. Seriously.
So a couple of questions I have for you, and we'll start with this. You know, you said you've gone through something recently, some challenges recently. Can you explain to us, kind of dive into what those were and how you use the regardless mindset to overcome them?
Great question. Great question. Yes. So your girl in October got laid off. And this is a part of my journey that I didn't even mention. But it's a massive part of who I am.
Mm.
I was in corporate for 5 years. Actually, I did mention it, my first job out of college, but recently I've left the world of 9 to 5, of climbing the corporate ladder. And I am so, so grateful for that experience because I've learned so much about business, sales, three, influencer marketing, marketing in general, paid media, all of it. I was selling for the leading influencer marketing agency globally. So I was like the youngest account executive there for 3 years. We got acquired by Publicis, which is a massive agency headquartered in Paris. And I like survived the first month of that acquisition. But I should get that like on a shirt.
Yes.
um, they like essentially obviously had to cut down on employees, and me being one of the youngest sellers there, I was one of them that was let go.
Okay.
Um, and it's super interesting because I always knew that working for someone else wasn't my calling. I always knew that regardless, the podcast, the platform, being an entrepreneur, taking that full leap of faith into doing this full time, because I was juggling building regardless for the past 3.5 years while dealing with a very competitive and aggressive sales job.
Yeah.
And so I always thought to myself, like, if I'm able to build regardless to where it's at right now with the 9 to 5, like, I can only imagine what it would look like if I didn't have those responsibilities working for a corporate job. And so my heart was always like, Sky, I'm not happy here.
Mm.
And you know what I've learned is that God, the universe, whatever hears your whispers,
Yeah.
and even if you're not ready for it, sometimes what you think you want is actually not what you need.
Mm.
And God or the universe sometimes does you the biggest favor. It does not freaking feel like it in the moment. But I'm telling you now, that was a massive barrier and obstacle in my life of comfiness,
Mhm.
and the universe being like, nope, we're taking it away. You thought you were going to have 3 more months of stability. Nope, it's happening today.
Mhm.
And so, regardless of that, that rejection was absolutely redirection, and also allowed me to really sit with myself and pause and be like, holy cow, instead of thinking, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Why me? I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not smart enough. It's like, no, I am so fortunate that I get this time and this space to reflect, pause, and ask myself, what is it that I want to
Yeah.
do? And now, regardless of that, I get to go out into the world and actually
Mm.
create what I want to create. Like, that is sick.
Yeah.
So, that was like kind of the 9 to 5 world, just one of the massive challenges that I've been up against. And I don't say this from like a victim place, because we all have moments like this.
Yeah.
And I'm just hopefully a mirror to you,
Yeah.
and everyone listening.
You said something that I want to touch on, and it's the notion that we believe we know exactly how our life is supposed to go. And I believe we think we know that based on, but what we have to understand is that that is based on past experience. And so to have faith and trust in the universe, God, source, what have you, that there is a more divine plan for you that you may not even be able to fathom yet, and to lean into that instead of resist it.
Mm. Yeah, yes, the way that you just said that is so beautiful, and that's something that I've been having to remind myself of, is like, regardless of what's showing up and regardless of the loss of my 9 to 5, of a relationship ending with my boyfriend who I thought I was going to marry, like out of nowhere, it's just like, okay, what's the lesson? What's the gift here? How can I lean in and
Yeah.
trust that regardless of how much it hurts right now,
Mhm.
it's all happening for me, and there's a
Yeah.
bigger plan that I don't
Yes.
know what it is yet, but
Yeah.
it
And
will.
it really is the mindset shift from why me, woe is me, poor me, to okay, okay, what is this here to show me? How can I like use what I learned from this to like show up, apply the skills and tools I have, and ultimately like eventually help others, which is what you're doing through sharing on your podcast.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
What are your what do you think are some of the most, through the show, through what you've been doing, some of the most pressing issues that the 20 somethings are facing? I mean, I'm sure like navigating career transitions, job loss, relationships, like what are some maybe like we wouldn't even realize or think of?
So I think a massive theme with, like, all of the pillars that I cover, or I try to cover it,
Mhm.
regardless, are career, of course, relationships, which encompasses with yourself, dating, intimate relationships and friendships, so relationships in general, and then overall well-being. And I think all of these key pillars are all correlated to this like idea of self-discovery. And I think the reason why our 20s are so brutal is because there's almost this sense of like groundlessness and like just being horizonless for a
Yeah.
decade because you're growing into your own, and it's very scary
Mhm.
because there's so much unknown that you're battling and you're up against every single day.
Mhm.
And even when we look at our friendships or even romantic relationships or even like the one with ourselves, who I was last year being 26 versus 27, like who is she? Like even
Yeah.
like last night, like I had a moment of being like, okay, like, should I get back together with my boyfriend? Like, I want to run into his arms and like a lot of that. And then I wake up today, I'm just like, what the frick was I thinking? So that's just like a really small example. But I think all of this goes to show that like we're changing at such an accelerated rate. And it can be hard because I have some girlfriends where the way that we're growing, we're on different timestamps and timelines. And
Yeah.
another part with this is like comparison, comparing yourself to other 20s who are maybe seeing more financial success.
Mhm.
I have girlfriends who are having babies right now, and my
Yeah.
boyfriend of 3 years just broke up, and now I have to start over.
Right.
So people are on such different
Yeah.
paths. I think when it comes with navigating the unknown in your career, your relationships, your well-being with yourself, and then also the comparison and now this aspect of social media on top of that. I think the common theme here is really the unknown.
Mm.
And also when, the way that we connect nowadays is like going on social, and a lot of people aren't being fully real. I mean, I 100% like my life on social sometimes looks pretty great,
Mhm.
but I think through my podcast, it's a lot more like
Yeah.
someone just broke my heart and I'm not okay.
Yeah.
But I have to say that like most people are showing, obviously, we all know the best side. So, of course, it makes the internal struggle that much louder, noisier, and brutal is the right word.
Mhm. One of the things that I really appreciated and was drawn to about you from the get-go was your vulnerability and
Mm,
like showing up on a call and being like, "Hey, this is what I'm going through." And when you are vulnerable, and it takes strength to be able to be vulnerable in publicly, everyone around you almost takes a deep breath. They're
yeah.
like, "Oh, wait, I can just be myself." This is an example of someone who's doing that. And it's rare to be able to do that in your 20s for most. Like,
Mm,
I even felt I'm 31 now. The day that I turned 30, it was like almost like a different person. Because I
yeah.
think in my 20s, you're still so much trying to figure out like who you are, what you're about, what you should be doing. And you like most often care what other people think of you and like feel like you need to have it all figured out. And as soon as you realize like no one has it all figured out, and what's most important is to be true to yourself. We know authenticity vibrates the highest. Like as soon as you can just like be who you are, that is so freeing. And ultimately, I'm just grateful to have arrived there in my 30s, but I felt a huge shift from 20 to 30. So I really appreciate you navigating everyone through this really difficult decade of life.
Thank you. I love what you just said, and this resonates with me. I was like getting drinks with a girlfriend last night, and it is so wild because I find that like I hear so many different voices in my head, especially when I'm making like an important decision, whether it's in my career, my relationships, or just like anything that involves like an important decision. And it's like I can hear my mom's opinion, I can hear my dad's, I can hear my best girlfriend, and then I like all of that kind of filters through like my judgment of what I think is right or good, and then it's like, whoa, I'm actually judging myself. But instead I'm trying to practice like how can I lean into authentically showing up as me, even if that means me making a decision that might have not been the best for like growth in the moment, but
Mm.
actually, I think if we can flip the script and be like, if I was able to just be so authentic and real with me being a sensitive person and showing up that way, like, I'm not going to apologize for that. And I think that's been something that I've been like teetering with. I think, especially through this breakup, is like, I have moments of, and this is me being totally real with you,
Mm.
Lauren, but like moments of being like, do I want to have one more conversation with him and just share,
Yeah.
because I wasn't really able to say everything that was on my mind. And then there's so many voices of like, don't waste your time. He doesn't deserve that. Like, you're way
Yeah.
too nice. But it's like,
Yeah.
you know what? If that's what I'm needing, then fuck it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so hard because we're like, we guide ourselves and we're like, wait, what is it that I really want? Is this my mind? Is this my ego, my backseat driver talking? Or is this like my heart feeling? Like, which one do I align with? And that can change from moment to moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's another part of what makes your 20s challenging, just because of
Mm.
all the voices that you're just trying to figure out which ones gel, which one's yours, which ones don't belong to you. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. Talk to us about how you feel like growing up with a marriage and family therapist and a coach as your parents, like really shaped you as an individual, your mindset, your ambitions.
Oh, oh my goodness. Well, yeah, I think for me, my parents did such an incredible job allowing me to be authentically myself, like regardless. It's so funny. This word is like,
Are you sure they weren't saying this to you like your whole childhood?
Lord, it's so crazy because I've always like said it in the past,
Yeah.
but like and then now all of my girlfriends, like, they're like, we say it like all the time and like we laugh. But it's no, it is interesting because like even thinking about the way that I was raised with them, I remember it was like Halloween and I wanted to be Napoleon Dynamite, 6th grade Halloween, and wear like the entire outfit to school, vote for Pedro. My best friend was Pedro and I was Napoleon. And
Okay.
my parents were always like, Sky, go for it. This is epic. Like, go
Yes.
do you. Like, they were always so supportive of
Mhm.
me and never placed judgment, always allowed me to really step into my own. They allowed me to make mistakes and they were there to support me when I did make mistakes. And not that they were fixing it for me, but I think I was able to just come home and process with them
Yeah.
and also be equipped with the right tools and questions to ask and
Mhm.
advocate for myself and apologize, like learn how to actually apologize and
Yeah.
take responsibility, which a lot of kids aren't taught these skills. And so I think through all of that, I learned the beauty of investing into your mental wealth and self-growth, that
Yeah.
regardless of how freaking challenging a conversation can be or how scary it is to put yourself out there or failing a test, like, what is the learning lesson here? How can I, regardless of this, move forward and grow? And I think, again, like that resilience and confidence muscle, I got to practice at such a young age. So for me now, going out into the world, and I'm not saying this is easy at all, but I think it might be a bit easier for me because I've been able to really practice that confidence, resilience, and getting uncomfortable muscle at such a young age because of my incredible parents.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. I think that's so cool. Similar to you, my parents had me when they were older. They were 44. And
Wow.
so they both had like full time set in their careers. They gave me a really long leash and always believed in me and said, go get it, go after it. I always like respected the long leash and didn't want to break it. But I'm very grateful. I think what we both were able to feel was like safety and freedom. And when you feel loved, safe, and free, it's incredible what you're able to evolve into.
Whoa. I love how you put all those words together because I've never really seen it in that way, but I think that's exactly what it is: love, safety, and freedom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was super cool for me. I just had like an
Yeah.
aha moment. Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I think that's some of what we're hoping to make our listeners feel is like loved, safe, and free to like become all that they are destined to be.
Absolutely. And I think the first part of that is giving yourself permission to do that
Mhm.
and also allowing yourself to lean on your community
Yeah.
when you need it because you cannot do this life alone. You cannot go through adversity alone. Community is absolutely the core to who I am.
Yeah. And I'm big on routines, rituals. You are in your 20s, you're building a brand, you're essentially entrepreneur, have your podcast. what are some like rituals or routines that you live by to help you stay grounded and like true to your own well-being?
Thank you for asking that. This is a really hard question because I want to be very real with you guys. This is something that I'm refining every day. And sometimes I only can fit in one ritual. And I'm trying not to be judgmental or harsh on myself if I don't get to all of the things that I'd like to do in a day. Because I think when we look at social, I think there is this like kind of toxic wellness culture where it's like, in order for you to have a ritual, you have to wake up and meditate and work out and do a face mask. And like, I'm being honest, I do not have that time in a day.
Yeah.
Maybe on Sundays or Saturdays, but like realistically, that's just, I get honestly stressed if I do all of that.
Being like so rigid in your routine, like let yourself off the hook, live a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say exactly. I would say like I try to when I wake up to I don't look at my phone. I take at least like a 4-minute meditation to Tara Brach, who's amazing. And then I will hopefully like 4 days out of the week will just honestly recently I've been really lighting like I've been loving to write poetry, which I think has been really it's kind of like free journaling, like just free writing. I think it's been really healing, especially with just the loss that I've experienced in the past couple of months. And then movement is key to me. So just getting some sort of movement in, whether it's going to a spin class or Pilates or bar, walking. Um, yeah, and then at night, like taking a warm shower, dimming my lights. I'm very into like setting the mood, ambiance, the vibe,
Yeah.
candles, and practicing gratitude, even if it's just thinking of like one thought, one thing that I'm grateful for, even if I can't write it down, but just at least having that moment. So for sure, movement, at least 4 minutes of stillness, and hot showers and low lights.
And the gratitude. I mean, there's so many tools, there's so many
Yeah,
avenues. You have to find what works for you. So experiment with all these different approaches.
absolutely.
Skylar, as we begin to wrap up, I would love to hear how Regardless has evolved since its inception. Was it 4 years ago?
Yes, like 3.5 years ago. Thank
Congratulations.
you.
I'm on around 9 months. So, like, congratulations on 3.5 years.
Mm.
Talk to us about the journey and what's on the horizon for you.
Thank you. Yeah, the journey's been really, really fun. And it's absolutely evolved. It's been super interesting because it first started off as like just interviews. And now I've been like, whoa, like all of these people are so inspiring and I love them and they are a part of Regardless, but also like I have a story and I have wisdom and I want to be the main character sometimes.
Yes.
Like,
She's a star. Yes.
so I think over the past couple of months, and especially with like honestly me becoming a walking regardless, I've really leaned more into being really more of like the front spokesperson of Regardless. And so it's evolved more into like 2 solo episodes, 1 to 2 guest speakers a month, and then one with my mom.
Mm.
So it's for sure more centered around the lens of me and
Mhm.
my experience, and
Yeah,
really the guest speakers being like my mentors and bringing my audience to have access to my network of mentors.
I love
So
that.
that's kind of like the style. But again, like as I'm looking into the next couple of months, it's evolving into a membership platform. So it will have
Amazing.
educational content, learning programs, monthly webinars with my mom and I, and then discounts on live events. And then starting March 26th, I'm launching an arm of Regardless called Regardless and Co., which stands for Community, Conversations, and Connection. And that will be really intimate, casual monthly meetups with other 20 something women, being very real about what's showing up in our world,
Mhm.
whether it's heartbreak to layoffs to wildfires to the unknown to not feeling worthy, whatever it might be, and really, really creating a safe space for women to be so real, regardless of what that looks like. And then in addition to that, I'm also life coaching now. So coaching, membership, and experiences is on the horizon here at Regardless. And, I'm in it with everyone. We've got this
Yeah.
regardless. And that's what's up.
Could you ever have envisioned this at the start of the show?
That's a really interesting question. I always knew that I wanted to build this sort of support ecosystem.
Mm,
I just didn't know how it would actionize.
yeah.
And I think I'm about to embark on, whoa, I didn't know it would evolve into this. I
Mhm.
think it's been I think I'm very flexible with change. So no, I think pretty linear in a
Yeah.
way. Like it hasn't reared too off, but again, I think at any moment
Mm.
it could absolutely pivot. I mean, at any moment, like anything can happen.
Anything could happen. What I wanna get our
Yeah.
listeners, like, to understand is, like, take that first step.
Mhm.
Stick with it for 3 plus years because I'm sure it'll blow your mind, and I'm sure there were so many hard moments for you, Skylar, even moments where you're maybe like, "What am I doing? Like, should I continue? Like, this is scary," or like, "I don't know, is this going how I want it to go?" And then all of a sudden, it's like you're in it. Wow, it's been 3.5 years. Look at all that has happened. Thank God I stuck with it.
Yeah. Yes, like, even thinking about my corporate job, if I didn't build this over the 3 years of having a
Mm,
corporate job, I would have to look for another corporate job. So, I'm so proud of my younger self for never giving up, and even my younger self yesterday, like, there's so many sleepless nights, like, still, oh my god, even more so now, where it's like, "What am I doing?" Like, I'm selling myself, I'm selling this brand, and it's super scary, but I would not have it any other way, and if I've learned anything, it's to just not wait on anyone.
mm.
Do not wait for the right opportunity, the right conversation, the right person. Start today, start now because it's
Yeah.
you against you.
Yeah, it's so true. Life is now. And I think what we have both found is like it doesn't feel like work because we're like following our dreams and like living our passion and building a business that we're so deeply rooted in. And it's a really beautiful feeling. And I encourage anyone who's listening who has that desire or drive to do something like take the first step now. Don't even wait till tomorrow. Take it now.
I love that.
Mm. Skylar, any last words for our listeners today?
If you guys want to listen to Regardless, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Our Instagram and TikTok is at Regardless the Pod. And if you'd like to follow me personally, my Instagram and TikTok is at Skylar Sorkin, and our finalized website should be up next week. So super exciting at www.regardless.co.
Amazing. Thank you, Skylar. Everyone, she's a really fun follow. So go check her out.